is a very big one. That one too, it confirms what kind of Islam you are practicing. The fourth one is al-Muslim awladihi. You, if Allah blesses you with children, how you relate with them is part of your Islam. Then we have al-Muslim ma'a aqaribihi, a Muslim and his family. How do you relate with them? How do you ask after them? How do you assist them? Then we have al-Muslim ma'a jironihi, a Muslim and his neighbors. It's a fundamental discussion in Islam. How we relate with our neighbors is part of your Islamic qualification. Then we have al-Muslim as they call it, a Muslim and his friends. وَكُونُ مَعَ صَادِقِينَ, as said in the Quran by Allah, chapter 9, verse 119. A Muslim and his friends. How do you relate with them? How do you treat them? What kind of friends? And we have al-Muslim mujtama'ihi, a Muslim and his society or community. So all these things, they make up they're the making of a Muslim. You can't just say you are serving Allah, you'll be treating human beings the way you like. No, all go together. But tonight, we are picking just al-Muslim nafsihi, a Muslim and himself. By this, we are going to look at a Muslim and himself, you and yourself. How does it depict your Islam? This is in three perspectives. We have al-Muslim ma'a nafsihi fi aqlihi, al-Muslim ma'a nafsihi fi jasadihi, al-Muslim ma'a nafsihi fi ruhihi. So we are talking of a Muslim and himself with respect to the way he applies, he uses his brain, and a Muslim and himself with regards to how he uses his body, and a Muslim and himself with regards to how he uses his soul, how he treats his soul. These are the three components of a Muslim and himself: your brain, your body, and your soul. If these three are healthy, you are healthy, you are the best person on earth, because all these three can be good, can be sound, and society be found there wanting. So we start with the first one, because Islam too values that al-Muslim ma'a aklihi. You know, in regards to your brain, if you go to the Quran, there's a verse that recalls, when you read Quranic verses in the Khawatim al-Quran, you see Allah mentioning afala ta'qilun. For example, in Surah Baqarah, verse 44, where Allah says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, أتأمرون الناس بالبر وتنسون أنفسكم أفلا تعقلون. Allah said, do you command others to do what is good, what is righteous, and you yourself, you don't do it? أفلا تعقلون. Where is your common sense? Don't you think, don't you reflect? These kind of verses, Allah is calling us to the use of brain to reflect. And in the Quran, verses like this, Afala Ta'qilun, appears 13 times in the Quran. In Quran chapter 2, verse 44, Quran chapter 6, verse 32, Quran 21, verse 37, and so on and so forth. Allah mentions these Afala Ta'qilun, Afala Ta'qilun. That's one angle there. Number two, in the same Quran, Allah says, it will literally mention that this thing is for what? لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ وَمَا يَذَكَّرُ إِلَّا أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Ulul Albab, Ibn Abbas mentioned that the wuli uquli minan nas. The wuli uquli minan nas. This refers to people who have brain. Well, Lubbu means brain. Labib means somebody who has brain. So the Quranic mentions Ulul Albab, those who have a brain. When you now look at the Islam, in the Sharia, we call something atakalifu ash-shari'atu al-ilahiyya. When it comes to responsibility in Islam, that okay, you must observe Salat, you must fast in Ramadan, you must give zakat, you must observe Hajj, you must do this, you must do that. Those commandments, those obligations of Rudat in Islam, they are all connected with the brain. The brain is a factor that determines whether you are qualified to observe Salat or fast in Ramadan. That's when the fiqh you see them mentioning those shurut. They say al-bulugh, al-aqlu, al-islam, and so on and so forth. In the hadith of the Prophet, it said that rufi al-qalam and thalathatin, the pen which writes whether you do good or bad down has been raised. In other words, there have been nothing written down for these three people. And when somebody becomes insane, there will be no good or bad written against his record because the brain is not functioning. So when the brain is not functioning, somebody is insane, there's nothing like ibadah for the person because he can't just, he doesn't know what exactly he's doing. And for one who has slept too, there's no way we can use that one to equally explain the okay to record anything for him because he's sleeping. Then last one there is what? And so be hata tell him from the little boy until he becomes mature. That one is an hadith of the Prophet talking about the brain. Now we realize that our brain are not thinking the same way. Some are more intelligent than others. Some are brilliant, some are intelligent, some have greater thinking, and so on and so forth. In that light, you realize that Islam let us know that we have our brain at different degrees. Today, you talk of the IQ, this and that. Same thing, like some scholars try to compare, it's like trees that are in the garden with fruits. You know, different trees, different fruits. Some trees are so leafy and have a lot of fruits, but some just few fruits, some lesser fruit, some even no fruit. That's how our brains are as human beings. Some brains bear fruits, some brains are just redundant and not bearing fruit. That is an aspect we have to understand that human beings, the way we think, are not the same also. In addition to that, scholars equally say that man tafakkara fillah. Yes, we have said that you need to apply your brain, use your brain, Allah is giving you brain. But we are warned that man tafakkara fillah wa fi sifatihi dhalla wa man tafakkara fi khaliqillah wa ayatihi izdada imanan. Whoever feels that the next thing he wants to do is to think about God himself. I want to think about Allah himself, who created him. When did he start? Where is he? How do you know he exists? Where, everything has a beginning. Whoever does that, trying to know the reality of essence of Allah, such person will get lost. Like you have the atheists and agnostics today. And whoever thinks about the creations of Allah and his signs, such person will increase in Iman. So we now realize that the brain has limitation of what is allowed to think. The exception is that you don't think Allah or what Allah has ruled that this thing is a no-go area. Then the Sharia of Islam, we call something Maqasidu Sharia, that is the real objective of Sharia. We have things like a Hifzul Deen to protect your religion, Hifzul Amal to protect your wealth, Hifzul Nafs to protect lives, Hifzul Aqli to protect your brain, Hifzul Ardi to protect your dignity, and of course, Hifzul Nasab to equally protect your lineage. That's why Islam recommends marriage. That how do you marry, how do all those things like that. That's an aspect too we have to get right that way. So with that one said, we then realize that in Islam so much value our brain that it doesn't want to get spoiled or destroyed. Because the brain, from the angle of those who study the brain, they say we have over 86 billion neurons in our brain. That's what makes it brain. And the more you activate those neurons, the better output you have for humanity. So there are things that can spoil the brain. The brain has what can spoil it. The brain has what can make it or mar it. In the first place, as Muslims, Islam encourages us to read. Ikra, read. So when you read, you are engaging your brain in an exercise, intellectual, cognitive exercise that will make you to really utilize some of those new neurons. That's why those who memorize the Quran, it has to do with the brain. It's a cognitive exercise that keeps them to be conscious, to be focused, to be determined. It's not just memorizing the Quran, it has several activities going with it because you have to do muraja. You have to revise what you have memorized. And by so doing, you are able to train your brain for retention. You train the brain for concentration. You train the brain also for focusing, that you have time for other things. That is one angle there. Besides that, again, Islam encourages us to equally use the brain for tafakkur, that you reflect over Allah's creations, the heavens, the earth, the oceans, the trees, the animals, the birds. All these things you are encouraged to think about them. And the more you think about them, the more the illumination of your seeing reality of life as a Muslim, as a human being. So Islam encourages us to do what? Reflection. Third one is Islam promotes tadabbur. The Quran, Allah says in the Quran that afala yatadabbaruna al-Qur'ana am ala qulubin aqfaluha. Don't they reflect over the Quran, or they have something that is to seal their heart? So with that very one, you realize that Islam allows us to read the Quran, think deeply behind just the surface meaning. When you do that, it makes you to understand the meaning of life. Equally, Islam calls to another wata'amul. You think, you reflect, you carry out experiments, as we are seeing today. By those channels, Islam is preparing our minds to be focused. And when you now observe prayers, you recite Quranic chapters, it's expected you focus. When you finish prayers, you do your tasbihat, your subha. That one too, you have a number you have to do 3 times. It will make you to utilize the brain and so on and so forth. But the aspect we want to quickly mention is that this our brain have what they call mufsidatul akli. What can damage the brain? What can spoil the brain? One of such is al-ma'asi, disobedience, committing sins. Allah Akbar. When you commit sins, it's because the brain is nur, is light. So when you commit any sin, the sin will serve as darkness to exterminate or becloud the nur, the light of the brain. And when that happens, it will make the brain to become a kind of reduced in its ability to think out some great things, besides it become weak. So sins weaken the brain spiritually. So the more sin, because when you commit any sin, it will make you to, it's a mental process. You are lying, you are committing zina, anything. So when you do involve in sins at all, it affects the brain. It makes you forget even what you have learned. You will recall the nasheed of that شكوت إلى وكيع سوء حفظي فأرشدني إلى تارك المعاصي. So Imam Shafi complained to his ustaz that I forget what I learned. You know, ask him to do what? Tarukul ma'asi. You avoid committing sin. Because knowledge is the light of Allah, which does not stay in a sinful brain. If you are reading books, you forget what you have read, you can assimilate, think about what you do in the secret or in the open, whether you are sinful or not. So committing sins affect the brain. Secondly, and we are told that ma asallaha ahadun hatta yaghiba aqluhu, that one will not be able to disobey Allah until your brain has vacated. If your brain is normal, you won't disobey Allah. That's why, you see, the real meaning of aqlu is mana. Mana, with that was that what what forbids you, because the brain is meant to serve as what will guide your action. Like a human body, we have the king. The king is the soul. The brain is the advisor. The parts of the body which one shahwa desires are the agents. So the brain will always tell you anytime you want to do anything bad, you will just know. The brain will compare for you. If you want to steal, for example, the brain will not forget to let you know that this thing you can be caught. If you know how they can't become smart, the brain will tell you that your smartness can be exposed. If you want to commit dinner, the brain will, you play shower, the body will help you to plan it. Your private man, let me do this thing, I will enjoy it. The brain will let you know that this thing you want to enjoy, it will let you know that it's not last, it's not allowed. Because as a Muslim, if you want to do anything, your brain will come immediately that no, this is not good. But when your bodily desires overpower it, then you go ahead for it. But you not forget the evil or the bad things one has done. So committing sin affects the brain. It affects your brain to retain. It affects your brain to kind of be able to assimilate on time. Also, al musiqi, when you listen to music, you are deadening and killing your brain, because music goes into the best part of your brain. So as a Muslim, you need to know that music only words, it damages the light of your brain. The Al-Khamru in Quran chapter 5, verse 90, Allah says, Innama al-khamru wal maisir. It mentions the issue of intoxicants. And that's why you see it's balancing of Islam. Islam forbids alcohol for many reasons. One of the reasons is to protect your brain. When your brain is damaged, you will not be normal human being. Besides that, when your brain is now affected, you will affect other human beings. It will affect your family, your children, your wife, your neighbors, your a drunkard. You, if you have seen them before, you see what they go through in the streets. So that one too, Allah forbids what? Alcohol, intoxicants, whatever can make you become intoxicated in any form. Islam doesn't want you for it, because it wants to do hifsul akli, protect your brain. Beside that, again, whatever can affect thinking process that is evil in Islamic society is not allowed to be promoted. That is about al-aklu, talking about al-muslim ma'a nafsihi. Second one now is al-jasad, your body. Look at Islam. Islam dinun shamil, mutawazin, is a religion that is comprehensive and balanced. That is why ينظم شؤون الدنيا والآخرة. Islam now organizes your affairs for this world and the hereafter, such that Islam wants a yuridul Muslim al-qawi. He wants a very strong Muslim. Our Prophet said that al-mu'min al-qawiyyu khayru wa habu ila Allah min al-mu'min ad-da'if. A believer who is strong physically, spiritually, is the better, is the best, and the most beloved to Allah. When you check history of humanity, you realize that at a point when Islam has balanced the way we use our brain and our body, some were just denigrating. They were punishing their body by not eating, not wearing clothes. No, whereas in Islam, Islam makes us know that no, you have to do what? You have to eat moderately. You have to wear good clothes and so on and so forth. In Surah Al-A'raf, verse 1, verse 32, Allah says here that Ya bani Adam, khuzu zinatakum inda kulli masjid wa kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. Allah says, oh son of man, avail of your apparel, the good ones, when it comes to the house of worship. Eat, drink, but don't be extravagant. That's why Prophet now told us that when some companions felt that they just need to do special ibadah, they should need to just avoid having meeting their wives, they need to avoid eating, they need to. Prophet now told them that your body He said, يُزَدِكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقٌّ. Your body has a right over you. Your eyes have a right over you. Your wives have a right over you. So look at Islam. And Islam now promotes that تقويته تقويته الجسد إذا ضعف. It was that wants that when your body is weak, you have to find way to make it strong, not by haram forbidding means. Equally, Islam wants you that you purify, you cleanse your body. Either tasakha when it's dirty. Again, Islam encourages you that turihu either ta'iba. When your body is weak, you have to make it lively. You arouse the body, you recreations for the body. Then to alijuhu either marido. When the body is ill, you have to treat the sickness of your body. Then taqih min al-amrad. Beside that, Islam says you should protect your body from becoming sickly. That's why Islam kind of guides us to avoid overeating because it can affect our body. It affects us not be resting at all. When you kill up to know we don't sleep much, it can affect your body too. Then there are ways by which Islam prepares us to actually protect our body. One of the ways is that one is that Islam makes us to do what to deliberately treat our body well, have to protect our body, to safeguard it from all illnesses, to always remain healthy. In the hadith of the Prophet, we have it that Dua Rasul used to pray for health, for well-being. One of such is what? He says that Allahumma afini fi badani, Allahumma afini fi sami, Allahumma afini fi basari. Oh Allah, make me healthy, sound in my body, my eyes, my body. It's a prayer for sound body. He equally says somewhere that afdalu ma utiya al-insanu al-yaqinu wal-afiyah. The best man is ever given is certainty in terms of knowledge of who his creator is, and of course, afia, well-being. Then, equally, Prophet used to pray for Allahumma afini fi badani. Equally said that Salullah al-afwa wal-afia. Our Prophet said, ask Allah for overlooking your sins and well-being, wal-ma'afata fi dini wa dunya al-akhirah, and to have a well-being in your religion in both worlds and hereafter. In addition to that, Islam encourages nazofa, wants us to purify ourselves. Look at Islam; it encourages to take your bath, at least you take it at least once in a week. Whereas it should be daily, especially Juma day. You see the way Islam says you cut your fingernails, you take your bath. Again, Islam encourages that what? To avoid what can weaken your body of drugs, of drinks, or other things. Then it allows us again urinating in ponds. There's a wisdom for that. Or roadsides or water source. They call it lawa'in, mala'in, places of curse. The wisdom is that when you do that, it will inconvenience others and they can spread epidemics. And by so doing, it will affect their body. That is one angle to that. The Islam again doesn't want us to take intoxicant because it can weaken your body. That's one way by which Islam wants us to take care of our health. Another way is that Islam wants us to do what? To be flexible, to be agile. When we are moving, we are doing anything, he wants us to go and pray in the mosque. You're walking down to the mosque. It's a kind of physical exercise. You're observing Salat. You're going for Hajj and others like that. All these things, they make you agile. In the Quran, Allah says, Allah says, prepare for them all means of power among you to have a sound health. With the Prophet Salam, he once involved in wrestling with a man, one of the champions in Arabia then, just to show physical strength. He used to do horse riding too. He encourages Riyadh and so on and so forth. The third way is that is for you at times as a man to a kind of discomfort your body to make it feel not always in luxury. Prayer says that وَاخْشَوْشَنُوا فَإِنَّ نِعْمَةَ لَا تَدُومُ. Make living a kind of rough situation at times, a kind of level of not too comfortable for yourself, because Favor may not always be there. You could be stranded at times. So we have to fast, observe Kailula, and of course, as Muslims, we have what to call amanatul badani wal akli wal ruh. You know, the trust of the brain and the body. The hadith of the prophets on modesty, we remember where it says, Istahyu min Allah haqqa al-istihya, be bashful of Allah, and he mentioned the issue of al-rasu, wa ma wa'a, wal batna, wa ma hawa. So he mentioned your body. He mentions the brain in that very hadith by extension. So you are not meant to use the brain for evil, to think evil against your fellow friends, to think way of stealing money in the offices, to think evil way of defrauding others. It's an amana. Then your bodily parts too. You are not meant to commit sin with your body, using your hands, or going there with your legs, or washing the evil, or committing zina. Whatever is sinful, your body is the amana. You must not involve in such. And the last one, of course, is your ruh. Because we are talking about a Muslim, ma'a nafsihi, we say that three parts, ma'a aqlihi, ma'a jasadihi, wa ma'a ruhihi. When it comes to the soul, that is the mother of all. That's the greatest of all. Because your ruh, as you will know, ركب الله الإنسان على الماء والروح. Allah creates man to be a man of matter and soul. And of course, the sixth sense of ruh in the body is not independent of the body. I repeat that. The sixth sense of ruh, your soul, in the body is not independent of the body. The ruh can stay on its own. It has to live inside your body. So other parts of the body are permanent there. You have your hands where it is, you have your leg where it is, but you can't see where the ruh is. So and each one plays his own role. For the body, you can see it. You eat to sustain the body, you drink to sustain the body, you sleep to sustain the body. But how do you sustain the soul? So when you now die, this body, the body was not there before. You remember when you were, you were small, like over time, to return to what it was before. The ruh will remain in the barzakh till yawm al-qiyamah. So as a Muslim, you need to invest in your ruh, in your soul, because Allah says that قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. When you purify, you invest in your soul, you'll be successful. But today, what investment do we make? There's one danger. The danger that today we commit sin with confidence. We are no more bothered about the sins we commit because we feel that what's the big deal? So we just need to know that this life, this journey of life, is not about satisfying the body, the leisures of life. It's about using these leisures to prepare, to strengthen the body to work for the soul. And the soul is what keeps you, what keeps you to be healthy in terms of being a sound moral element. It's what keeps you to be at peace. It's what keeps you to have mental health. The soul is what keeps you to love fellow human beings. It's what keeps you to love yourself. It's what keeps you not to fail yourself, and it's what keeps you to not to suffer in the grave. It's what keeps you not to be tortured in hereafter, and it's what keeps you to enter Jannah. So you can't just wish it away and feel that you can do your soul the way you like. So, my dear brothers and sisters in the Deen, al-Musma nafsihi, let us try to look at ourselves and see how our brain, our soul, and our body are relating, working as a unison to please Allah and be guided rightly. I pray to Allah in His infinite mercy to guide our brain with the light of Iman, to strengthen our body for His cause, and to prevent our souls from committing any evil or sin. Jazakumullah khaira, barakallahu fina jamia. Probably you have one or two clarifications, comments, or questions. Then you can do that now, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. If you have comments, questions, you may ask, inshallah. You may send it to the chat box, anyone you feel like. Comment, questions? If you have comments or questions, if there's none, then we have to close session for tonight, inshallah. If you have, good, okay. Yes, who is this one? You may ask your questions. Your hand is up. Ask your questions.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Welcome,
This is Ibrahim Momo.
Yeah, welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. On the issue about, our souls or bodies not getting used to comfort, the question I'd like to ask is, I'm just trying to draw inference, maybe to give a perspective that can benefit with the audience. In the case of the suppression and oppression of Muslims in Gaza and other parts of the world, Gaza particularly in Palestine. It is one sense is that, well, it's part of the trials or the questions that the way that Allah is testing our faith. But how do we also explain, the fact that it appears that Allah is giving the enemies of Allah, enemy of Islam, an upper hand for an extended period of time? Is it directly a way of also testing our patience or strengthening our soul or what? Because I know, yes, that reports have shown that a lot of people have become Muslim because of the steadfastness of the Palestinians. But in the context of, the seeming perennial victory that the enemies of Allah and enemies of the Muslims have been having, how do we put that in context? That's my question.
I really appreciate that. A brother from Ambrose Ali University, Barakallahu Fikum. There are two aspects to the question. It's a very pathetic one that the Muslim Ummah, we have failed the Ummah. Muslim Ummah has failed the Ummah. So the first perspective is that happenings in Gaza, with regards to the kind of abnegation, incarceration, persecution, the killings, the murder they are going through there, the essence is that it exposes the Ummah as a failed, as a subjected Ummah. Because it's a failure of the Ummah. The happening in Gaza is a failure of the Ummah. Because what happened there, there's no reason for it to happen. Because Allah has given us the strength and everything that we need to have. Diplomacy, wealth, power, political will, everything. But you see what happens? They just pocket the powers of Islam, the wealth of Muslim. That's the first aspect to that very issue. The second one is that the issue of, the question was asked under the premise of making the body to feel discomfort. Yes. So people today, to even fast from that is a big problem for them. But as a Muslim, you don't have to live it, just everything comfortable every time. Every morning, you take tea, you take beverage, you take this. At times, just feel like, let me just go. Let me just not just eat. Let me just trek today. Some people today are so comfortable that they want to go to the backyard. They will take their bus. They will take the car. Everywhere is car, vehicle, bus, everything. And the long run, it affects their health. It's happening today. At times, you can trek some distances, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it will assess your health. Some people today, when you even see some people, rich men trying to do that, why is this man working? Why for many reasons again, security and that fact, it just is the interwoven. So the second point is that like we have in Sarah, it has a lot of things. One thing is that all of us were on a journey and we're returning to Allah. The Gazans who have fought, who have suffered, Allah is to decide their matter. For we saw them as matters. If they are before Allah, Allah will accept them. Where they are weaknesses, may Allah forgive them. So Allah is the one that determines whether you die painfully or whatever. Look at the case in Sirah, Prophet Yahya. His head was cut, was severe, but because of a woman. And look at that, it was the Prophet of Allah, and that happened to him. Look at Rasul fighting Uhud. He was injured, the teeth broken. Look at that. And several cases like that. And of course, in Surah Buruj, we saw Ashabul Hudud, So Allah is the decider. But one thing is that yet Allah wants to what? Have those who become martyrs to him. So Allah would do what? So but we as Muslims, it is painful, but what is happening to them, they must have had an element of operations. You see all of them speaking in one voice, steadfast. If it will happen in our own country this way, you can just be sure what will happen. So there's need for us in our homes, as individual life, to live a level at time. Every time you're just today, I'm not even eating until 1. I'm not taking lunch. I'm not taking breakfast. So you can just decide to live to look there to Allah Alam, may Allah assist us. Then the question says that that what will you say is wrong with this individual, the one whose conscience always judges him? As human beings, our conscience must always be pricking us because we are humans. So when that happens, that okay, you feel that if one does wrong, really, you do wrong, you must feel. If you have element of human, your conscience must just feel it. You must know yourself. And that thing, you say you can resolve, you resolve it, you correct it, you stop it. Because for example, somebody is preaching that, okay, don't commit sin, and he's doing sin himself. You realize that if he's a believer truly, then he can't be in himself. That is one angle there. So conscious breaking is an element of iman. One should take practical step to ensure that one try to avoid, if one is harming somebody, offending somebody, one should desist. If one has done wrong, one should right the wrong. Allah alam. So what measure can we take if when on the low side of iman, you go to back up to right? No, just get a friend, or the king. You need to reach out to somebody who can you can share the problem with. That is one. In sharing that your state of low aside, you may have a rise in sharing your problem with somebody. Number two, share with somebody, relate and design a way to monitor each other. Then number two is dua. Dua helps a lot. Pray about dua. Allahumma ati nafsi taqwaha wa zakiyya anta khairu man zakaha. So pray like, oh Allah, purify my soul, and so on and so forth. Then also, you need to now be intentional. You need to have a way of avoiding environment that make you commit sin. With that very one, you may be able to overcome that kind of a challenge. Then also, somebody asked that, how do you deal with the doubts you have about you being arrogant or proud? Arrogance is not about doubt, it's about reality. If you may not, at times it could be in speech, it could be in appearance, it could be in your dressing, it could be your walking, it could be your lifestyle. So you need to read books by Imam Ghazali, Ihya Ulumuddin, or The Soul Purification by Sayyid Hawa, and so on, social manners. It's called Suluk Ijtimai. I think should be, I don't know whether that is the author or not now. So books that talk about the soul, about kibru, about ujbu. So when you read them, it will make you be conscious of that actions. And if some people observe that you have that problem, you don't to argue. You don't lose anything if you do even have you said you have it and you work on yourself. That working on yourself is what matters, because it's not about defending yourself. If you defend yourself, you go to Allah, you can't defend yourself. What will you do? So I think once you just try to have somebody who will observe you and you see how you move on, then what are the effects of compliments? What are the effects of okay? What are the effects of compliments on the soul? Yes, if you know yourself, we people that eulogize people should be careful. That's why people that somebody eulogize them, it enter their brain. So you have to be careful of people. Is so, is this, is that. But when you get to a level, you make the dua, Allahumma sakirini fi aini wa kabiri fi urinas. If you attain the level of, you always feel that I'm little, I'm nobody in the whole world. Maybe I'm the most sinful person. Lower yourself in your own heart. Don't feel big. With that very one, look at the case of a story I read in that social manners of somebody who was praying one day. One somebody who felt was righteous, put his leg on the one who was praying and said, "See this one praying," and by that he judged that this person is a lowly person, that's a sinful person. The person now slept and saw in his dream that he himself was the one that is worse. So one should not lose hope. once you feel that, once you just caution oneself and feel in your heart, don't let those things enter the brain that, okay, I'm this hour, I'm that. That's the little I can say about that. Then that's on that very one. Then if you don't like, you can in a polite way try to correct them and let them know I don't like it. It's a public domain. Then another question is that the constant feeling of what you find, what you didn't, what you did isn't right. Go and apologize. Even when you feel you aren't wrong, but you don't feel at peace until you apologize to the individual involved. What will you say is wrong with this individual? The one whose conscience always judges. That I just said it. It's even better that way. That you don't feel at home. That's how offend ourselves we may not even know. That's why when we preach at times, you have to say, when you conclude, say, Subhanaka Allah bihamdika, is a takfir, a kind of expiation. You might have said something that somebody understood wrongly, and by so doing, affect the person. So one should not just feel big. It's a way of fighting your soul not to feel at home that is right all the time. Then that is one angle too. Then also somebody asked that I saw a video that said nutmeg use not flavor in food is intoxicating, and this of the prophets, anything that intoxicates in small quantities should be avoided in large quantities. But majority of our foods and snacks are even being flavored by this same. My brother and my sister, the point is very clear. In a case where you have information at your disposal that something is this or is that, the addition you will apply is that da ma yaribuka ila ma la yaribuka. Whatever you are in doubt, it doesn't cost you anything to avoid it. Because the modern life we are living, only Allah can save, can show us mercy. We are all in serious trouble. What our eyes see, what we eat, where we go, everything, we are in serious trouble. So whenever you are in doubt, one avoids it. And they call something tazkiyah to nerves, you know, karatu tanzih in fiqh, in tazkiyah, that is something is not even really haram. You just want to avoid it that it will become haram. That one too is a model that one can avoid too. Then the other one here is that the person always feel guilty after doing wrong. That we have answered that. So then how do you deal with the problem of maintaining khushu while praying? My brother and sister, is a very difficult but easy thing to do. You will not relent. And what pays one most is if you're able to know many of most of the Quranic verses, it will help you to maintain khushu. Then you go to the mosque very early. If you are praying alone at home, for example, now that's a different thing entirely. So if you are going to the mosque, go early, be in the mosque on time, be doing the Quran, be doing Askar. So this will condition your mind. When you're not praying, you don't even know the money is reciting. Be blaming yourself that this is not the original, the word of my creator. I don't know the meaning. And I've prayed for the past 10, 20 years. And this thing I've been read, I don't even know the meaning. Am I really worthy to stand before Allah? Then you can start to learn the meanings in a way. So that one is a thing that you have to continue. Someone like say, I see my lights in your front, Aljana by your side, angel of death is pursuing you. Just imagine some situations where you are in Salat and try to focus and concentrate in your prayers. I think that's the last question I can see from the chat box here. I want to appreciate you all for being there and for asking the question. May Allah forgive all of us, retain our faith, and guide us aright. On this note, my dear brothers and sisters in the deen, we want to call it a night. Is it a day or a night now? To stop here for today. Until next 2 weeks, inshallah, we'll appreciate, invite your friends, your families, for us to have a time together to share the words of Allah and be more guided to the path of deen. Don't forget today's episode has been Al-Muslim Ma'a Nafsihi. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.